Happy Wednesday, Dolphins. We're back once again at the PFN Miami Dolphins podcast. We're in the middle of training camp. I'm your co-host, All Freaky, again here with Adam Beasley to go over all the exciting news from the week. And training camp is in full swing. I know Adam's been out there. I've been seeing him out there, and I've been there, and I'm exhausted already from all the heat and all the excitement. So how are you doing today, Adam?
Yeah, I thought I was only going to see you once, but you came twice already, huh?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm in full swing now. And then I'll be there Friday and also Saturday. So 4 trips to Miami in 7 days.
I mean, you might have a hurricane to deal with. Did you hear about this storm might be heading up the Gulf Coast?
I didn't. Yeah. I heard there was going to be rain on Saturday for the stadium practice, but I mean, you just have to plan accordingly because that's just South Florida's weather. That's just how it goes here. It's pretty much guaranteed to rain at some point during the day.
You got some big tailgate plan for the stadium practice?
Not at all. Not at all. Not even thinking tailgate yet. I'm going to bring the family out. So the kids, Jared, and, we're just going to walk around and do all the things that, kids should do. Not so much drinking and all that. So
I think my wife and son will be out there as well. And
nice.
So, it's always a fun day. I don't think it's going to be an actual scrimmage this year. I think it's just going to be a glorified practice, but there will be some fun, I'm hearing, on Saturday. Can't give any spoilers, but there could be some fun on Saturday you're not expecting. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, I love surprises. I'm looking forward to it even more now.
Yeah, so, it'll be a good day, and then first preseason game is 9 days, right?
I know somebody was like, "Oh, preseason next week," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" That just happened so fast. Well, for us, we don't ever stop, but it feels to me past off seasons have been slow, and we've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's here already. It went fast. Well, there's been a lot of there's always a lot of news with the Dolphins, so it keeps us busy.
Yeah, and it'll be obviously a quick preseason. There's only 3 games this year, 2 home and then 1 out in Tampa. So South Florida fans have opportunity to go to all 3. I don't know if I would. That seems torturous to me. I'm being paid to be there. I don't want to go to 3 preseason games. But,
I'll be there. I mean, that's good fun for me. I know, fans that can do it will do it. I mean, we're just starving for football at this point. So I do enjoy preseason too because it's just more relaxed.
Are you going up to Tampa?
I'm definitely going to Tampa. My parents live in the area there, so I'll be dropping the kids off and going off, and there will be a tailgate for that. So I'm excited to go and see my Tampa friends who I love so much. So yeah, things to look forward to. And on Friday too, it's training camp, but it's Members Day. So if you guys are season ticket holders, come out because usually they do some giveaways and things for that. So I'll be out there and come and say hi.
What do you think of camp so far? I know I've been out there. I think we've had 6 practices. I'm 6 for 6. I have yet to call in sick. You're 2 for 6, which is a pretty good batting average for someone who lives an hour and a half away.
I'm 2 for 6, but it's hard for me to watch. I know you guys you're all on your little computers and typing everything down and watching with binoculars. You should see this, guys. These guys are with the binoculars from the top row. And it's entertaining for me to watch you guys, but I try not to bother you too much because I know you guys are working. I'm there for funsies. So, I'm out there chatting it up with the fans, but you guys are the ones that have you see everything going on, got all the analysis for us.
Well, what's been your impression so far?
My impression's been pretty much that we're seeing a new Tua. We're seeing confidence. He came out the other day in front of the fans and, opened up the first public camp with, "Show me the money." And some people took that the wrong way, but later we found out that he was dared to do it. But I personally would go to a, celebrate, be proud. You've earned this. This is the time where, it's time to step up your leadership skills. And this is where the boys becoming the man. So, I think we are seeing that leadership, from what I've been seeing. And I have been observing, some of the play by the backup quarterbacks, which hasn't been as impressive. So that's a little bit, that's one of those things okay, we have our guy, but heaven forbid we don't have our guy. And then, we're in a little bit of trouble. So I've been seeing some of those struggles and I've been hearing a little bit about some issues with the O-line and the snaps and things like that. So I didn't witness those struggles in person, but I'm sure you could tell us a little bit about what's been going on there.
Yeah, you went through a lot there. I think we should start with Tua because last time we talked, he was still holding in. There's been no hold in since. He's done all the work, all the snaps. He's the richest man in Miami Dolphins history. It's crazy when he put it in perspective because he met with us Sunday. He signed. Well, he didn't sign it until Sunday morning. He agreed to it Friday and then signed it Sunday morning. And he put it in perspective and he said, "Well, yeah, I'm the highest paid person in this entire organization, not just." Player, but he's paid more than the coach. He's paid more than the GM. He's paid more than the CEO. I don't think Steve Ross is collecting a paycheck from the Miami Dolphins. That's not really how it works for most owners. They don't use it as an ATM. So yeah, in terms of salaried employees, he's number one. And not only that, it's the by far the biggest contract ever handed out to any Dolphins player. Far eclipsing the Tyreek Hill deal. That was 4 years, $120 million was the extension. This is 4 years, $212.4 million, I think. It's 53.1. There's, for people wondering why such a precise number, why the 0.4, it made his AAV, his annual value, $100,000 more than the group making 53 and Jared Goff, et cetera.
Interesting.
So it was just a, and obviously hours later, he fell down the list a little bit more because Jordan Love signed his, and he's getting 55 a year. So no one's cracked that $55 million a year barrier yet. Tua didn't do it. Love hasn't done it. I think Dak Prescott probably will if he gets a deal from the Cowboys. My guess is he'll become the highest paid player. The question is, at what point do all these quarterbacks, the Josh Allen's, the Patrick Mahomes, I know Mahomes just got an adjustment last offseason, but each year his earning power is lower and lower compared to the competition. And look, you love Tua. I'm a big fan of Tua's progression. I think he's a really good quarterback. I don't think any of us think he's Patrick Mahomes. And so the Mahomes situation, does he want to go get more money now that he's seeing this market has just completely exploded? When he agreed to his, the cap they didn't envision the cap going up as much as it did this offseason. So that makes everybody richer. I think it's great.
Do you know what Mahomes is making per year right now?
I think it's only like 45. But it's such a long contract. It's apples and oranges. Like he has like a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard. He's going to adjust that contract 2, 3, 4 more times before he gets to that 10th year. But speaking of Tua's particularly, I think, look, you and I have spent hours debating this, and you and I think both landed on, look, they got to do it. The numbers got to be right for the Dolphins. The numbers got to be right for the player. You can't disrespect them, but you also can't hamstring yourself in a way that you can't go sign players because you're paying Tua $65 million a year. Obviously, it wasn't going to get to that point this time around. But just hypothetically, there were some factors involved beyond simply, okay, is he good? Do you want to keep him? Let's sign him. And I think if you look at how the deal is structured, he's going to get over the next 3 years 150 and change million, all guaranteed. I think it's 167 million, all guaranteed total. So that's really good. And then it's kind of, we'll see. And not only is it we'll see that, every year the cap is going to continue to rise. And so his percentage of the salary cap the next couple of years is going to be a good chunk. But then it's going to start decreasing. It's going to diminish because the pie is going to get bigger and his slice is going to stay the same or if not get a little bit smaller, because I think year 4 is not one of his big earning years. So I think it's structured in a way that gets the two of the security he wants, gets that big 9-figure bonus and all that. But it's,
and then it let him, at the moment he became the highest paid quarterback, but just like by a little bit. And that's interesting to note because, we've been talking like in terms of millions of dollars. Okay. 53, 54, that jump we're talking millions. So that little 0.1, just enough to get the deal done.
I always say, I'll just take the decimal point. You can have the rest. So,
I'm honest to God.
But I think the broader point is this, is that it got done, and it got done in a way that gave Tua what he needed and gave Dolphins the flexibility going forward that they can still build a team around them. Because I don't care who you are, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, any of these guys, you can't do it yourself. And certainly Tua has great strengths. Things he does well, he does incredibly well. But I don't think he's the kind of guy that you're like, okay, with a bunch of scrub wide receivers, go 80 yards and get us a game-winning touchdown. He needs Jaylen Waddle on his team. He needs Devon Achane on his team. And these are long-term pieces. Tyreek, I think, is more of a short-term piece because of his age and his contract. Mostert obviously is 32 years old. We'll see how much longer he plays and all that. But you need to be able to have guys like Waddle, like Achane, like really cornerstone players to help you move the ball. And the Dolphins, even though they gave Tua a ton of money, which he deserved, they still have given themselves the flexibility to go and sign players like that.
So this is the time now where we're going to have to see if Waddle is going to peak, because we're looking at, the possibility of losing Tyreek in the next couple of years. So, it's Waddle's time to shine, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because if you would ask me who the most impressive player in camp so far has been, I would say it's Jaylen Waddle. I think he has been marvelous. I think he is down in, down out. He has been great. And he is a guy that doesn't take a ton of snaps off. He's out there a lot. He's playing with second-team quarterback, third-team quarterback. He's out there a ton. And he's making plays.
Yeah.
And what's been most impressive to me is he's cooked Jalen Ramsey a couple times. Mm-hmm. And when you can do that, okay, now you've got my attention. Sure, the contract was great. Most yards in the first 3 seasons in Dolphins history, all those things. But when you're going in practice against maybe the best cornerback of the last 5 years, and you're getting some good wins against the guy. And it's not just Ramsey. I don't want to pick on Ramsey because Waddle has been exploiting a lot of matchups. But to me, it has been incredibly encouraging that he has taken another step forward. And we talked to him this past week about it. I even asked him, I was like, hey, when rookie year, you broke the record for receptions of any NFL rookie. And then, 3 months later, Tyreek Hill's here and you're second fiddle. How did you handle it? And it was interesting what he said is it was like, well, I love it. I love it because I came from Alabama and his guy Devontae Smith was there and Tua was there. And he's like, I love an arsenal of weapons that we can just dominate teams with. And, certainly he's not I need my targets guy, but what he is a guy that you can depend on to give you production. So, yeah, I still think we're still in Tyreek's window now. He's 30 years old. I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff this year. But I do think that over the next year, 2 years, and certainly 3 years, you're going to see Waddle inch forward, and then become that WR1 again for the Miami Dolphins that he was as a rookie.
What's your take on Tyreek's participation? I saw some little bit of frustration from him yesterday, as they were leaving. Have you sensed any, frustration from Tyreek at all? He wasn't fully participating in one of those camps, I believe.
Yeah, I think they have him on a maintenance plan, which I'm not sure how much he loves. He's a guy that likes a lot of reps. Mm-hmm. But I mean, again, to the point I just made is 30 years old. He is I had to look this up. It's crazy. He is the only player in NFL history with back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. And you don't get that on, 90 targets. He is getting thrown the ball so much. He's running so many routes. He's putting so many miles on his body that if Tyreek wants to extend his career, he wants more money, obviously. He wants to broaden his window. You got to save some stuff in the tank, right? You can't. Right. I know he's in great shape, fantastic shape. And he is a freak of nature, really is. But Father Time's undefeated, and you don't want to give him a head start by putting all that work on him. So I didn't see the exchange that you're talking about, but so I can't speculate. But I do know that the Dolphins have really, really tried to limit him this camp, and I think they're going to try to limit him early in the season as well to make sure that he's got plenty left. And probably that message has already gotten through to him because he was asked about, Tyreek 2K. He wanted, the entire thing was, I want $2,000.
A little selfish. Yeah. And I don't think it's selfish when it becomes to the benefit of the team. You know what I mean? So. Right.
But I do think if there is one way it's selfish, it's not like he's screaming into his face, give me the ball. Right.
Yeah.
But I do think a couple of things are a factor. One, if you're chasing, for lack of a better word, empty yards, that it's a 3-touchdown game. You're blowing out the Broncos or whatever. I don't care about your 2,000 yards, Tyreek. You're on the bench because we need you long term. That's one. And two, I think you ask Mike McDaniel, and he'll acknowledge this. They need to be more diversified on offense. They cannot just be Tyreek and Waddle,
right.
Because when you take those two dudes away, what's your counterpunch, right?
Right.
And teams, he saw doubles on Tyreek, doubles on Jaylen, and nobody else could step up. Nobody else could get open and beat one-on-one coverage. That's why they've gone out and signed Odell, which would love to see him on the field. It's kind of weird that he hasn't practiced at all yet. Didn't practice all in the spring. We'll get to that in a second. But they signed Odell to certainly take some of that pressure off. They signed Jonnu Smith to take some of that pressure off. I think you're going to see Devon Achane used more maybe in the passing game than even in the running game. They got plenty of guys to run the football. Mostert, Jaylen Wright. We'll see what's going on with Jeff Wilson. He got dinged yesterday, but he has proven that he can run the ball if he needs to, be that between the tackles guy. So maybe they use Achane more in the passing game. I think all of this is how do we make sure we don't have a rerun of 2023 where our offense just stopped functioning when Tyreek got hurt, when Waddle got hurt, those guys were even in the playoffs limping their way through it. Do we have an answer, right? Do we have plan B if plan A is taken care of?
Right. So have you had any updates about Odell, his situation at all?
Yeah. So we asked Mike about it. I think it was last week. You can't hold me to days during training camp.
I know it all blurs together.
But it's not a new issue. Whatever is going on with Odell is an existing issue. This is them doing their due diligence to make sure he gets to the season ready to play. I wonder, and this is pure speculation, if it's something related to the not one but two torn ACLs that he suffered in his left knee. Sometimes these things swell up on guys. They need, again, this is totally speculation. I'm not saying I know this to be a fact, but just common sense suggests if it's something that's bothered him, because he didn't do anything in the spring, he's not doing anything now in the summer. It's something chronic. And, the only repeated injury he's really had is to his knees. So maybe there's some maintenance involved then. I'm curious to get your thoughts. How many games do you think they're going to get out of Odell this year? Because, I have to go back and look, him playing a full season, it's been a minute, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think that all depends on, what his current injury is and what is your time frame for recovery? Are you starting the season playing or are you not coming in until later on? So I think it's really going to depend.
Let's, for the sake of argument, say that they know what they're doing here. They're going to maybe 2 weeks out from the season start ramping him up and have him available week 1. What would be a good year for Odell Beckham in terms of games played, maybe percentage of snaps, and then stats for you? What would you be happy with?
I think for me, if he can at least play 75% of the season, that would be
12, 13 games.
Yeah, 12.
And then what?
But we haven't even fully discussed too. What is his participation going to be like? Is he backing up Tyreek and Waddle? Or is he starting? What is that going to look like?
My guess is he's third downs, right? Obvious passing downs are going to have him out there because that's kind of where, when they were in predictable passing situations last year, teams could really key on Tyreek and Waddle. And so you need him in those situations. So I would say third downs, maybe second and, you have a negative play on first down, you're going to throw in second. Maybe you'll have him out there. To me, what would be more interesting is one of Tyreek or Jaylen are going to miss time this season. It's just going to happen. It's the nature of football. Does he go and play?
And Odell was supposed to be our security blanket there.
Does he go and play 75% of snaps in those games, which would be a lot of snaps for a guy his age? Or do they, work in Braxton and River and whoever else emerges, maybe Malik Washington as a comma, something like that. Taj Washington obviously is not an option. He's out for the season.
Especially from what we've seen so far, I don't expect Odell to be putting up big numbers. I don't see that.
How many touchdowns would be good for you?
For me, probably 3 to 4, depending on his participation. I'm not expecting much from him, but I want more.
I think the Dolphins would be disappointed if it was that few.
Yeah.
I think probably 6 to 8, maybe. Yeah. 45 catches, 800 yards, and 6
yards.
touchdowns.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I would say somewhere in that range would be awesome. But to do that, you got to play a lot of games, right? You can't be 3 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off, whatever it is.
But if you ask me, I would rather have Tyreek and Waddle playing, the most, and I don't want to see them having any injuries and necessitating like a major participation from OBJ. So, I mean, that's going to come down to injury situations for sure, and production. What if Waddle's not doing what he needs to be doing, and they're like, let's try OBJ in there and see who's really going to like pick up the pace and get it done.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think if he is their go-to guy, something's gone really wrong. And we'll
don't put that on us, okay? Nothing's going wrong.
Yes, we're going to have the first season in NFL history where nothing goes wrong.
Nothing goes wrong. Everyone remains healthy. Everyone has breakout years. The numbers are extreme. 70-point games. That's my ideal situation.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dolph Freaky started drinking early today, so I apologize. All right, so we talked a little bit about practice. Were you kind of surprised how short it was?
I was.
Yeah. All right, so we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I wondered why. Is that heat related? It's been brutal. Like, just for anyone who's never been there, you step out the car and the sweat is already beating out of your face. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
You're wearing a wig and a helmet.
Okay, yeah. From my perspective, it's even worse. So yeah, it's hot. These guys are just pouring sweat, and so and I'm sure coach would love to have a longer practice, but like, what is reasonable in that heat? Brutal.
Yeah, I don't know if heat's probably a factor. I'm sure it is, but I think it's more he's so terrified of
having someone get hurt.
Jaylen Ramsey situation again, where second practice of week 1, he's out for half the season. So
you think it's related to injury, injury potential, which also ties into the heat. You're going to have guys that are getting dehydrated early on. Dehydration leads to injury in itself. Cramping, all those things. So it could be. Or do you think it's that coach is liking what he's seeing and he's like, all right, I have no problem ending this early?
No, I think this is all preordained. I think this was the schedule all along. I think he's worried about injuries happening in training camp. And I also think he's very worried about his team breaking down late. Yeah. And so I think Mike, he's never going to say this, but he might be thinking, look at that schedule. Early in the season, pretty cake. Late in the season, murderer's row, like brutal finish to the season. So maybe, we can get our legs underneath us against some of those cupcakes early, and then, hit our stride, because this is a team that 2 years in a row now has peaked way too early, way too early. And again, the first year of McDaniel was, Tua's injuries were that would derail any season. But last year, Tua played 17 games, and they had a bunch of injuries, particularly on defense, but still that might be part of it. They just wore down, and, a popped Achilles is a freak injury, but sometimes wear and tear can lead to that. And you just, all these things that he's probably thinking about. And it's like, you know what? We're good. 90 minutes and out, and they're going to ramp up more. It's not going to all be,
and I would hope that doesn't become the norm, because at the end of the day, we do have rookies that need developing, and, this is their chance to, learn from this team, learn from these vets. And so I wouldn't want that to be the norm, I don't want them to shortchange practice.
For the first time ever in franchise history, they're having 3 different teams joint practicing with them.
You're right.
Yeah. So next week with the Falcons. So maybe he just sees those as,
those are the more productive situations.
Right. We'll really get after it then. And again, it's not like those are the only practices they're going to have, but it's the ones they're going to be building towards. And he knows that those are coming. And so you don't need to particularly, and this is one of the things that we should discuss, those soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, quads, calves, all those things that, players have that they often get in training camp because they're not acclimated to football yet, they linger. Like you have a calf in August, it's going to bother you in November, right? You might not be on the injury report, but it's not going to feel great. And maybe that's just his way of, okay, we're really slowly ramping our way up. Maybe add a period here, a period there, get through these joint practices, get through the first preseason game, and then really start to hit our stride. That might be what he's thinking.
So, like, while we're on the topic of, player safety and injury and that sort of thing, like a lot of chatter has been centered around the Guardian caps and the usage during practice. And now that, they're allowed to actually use them during the games. I did a little bit of reading about it because I kind of find it fascinating, the development of these different helmets, and especially with Tua, the situation that he went through with his concussions and how relevant this is to our team. I found it interesting that quarterbacks are actually exempt from using them during practice, and they're supposed to be used, in any type of contact situation. And with practice, it's not necessarily a contact situation for quarterbacks. But I thought it was interesting that, like, the one guy that we need to protect from the concussions is not wearing one.
Right. Yeah. Because if a quarterback is touched, that player's probably getting cut unless it's someone really good, right? Like it's the written and unwritten rule: do not hit the quarterback in practice. So yeah, like the odds of a quarterback suffering a head injury are near zero in practice. Now, certainly they lost Tannehill for the season with a torn ACL in practice. Right. That can happen, but like concussion, like there's someone getting fired if they concuss your quarterback in practice. So,
do you foresee Tua using a Guardian cap during the games, or do you think he would end up using one of the other models that are available?
Yeah, no, my guess is, and we haven't asked him about this, I did ask 6 other players, and they all said, hell no, I'm not wearing that freaky looking thing. It makes me look like Marvin the Martian. Or
it does. It looks quite hilarious. Actually, like they look like bobbleheads. But at the same time, when in my research, I found out they only weigh 7 ounces.
Yeah, they say it weighs 10 pounds when it feels like, no, they don't like how it looks. Aesthetically, they think it looks dumb.
Yeah.
I get that. I also think that CTE is not a joke. So, sometimes you forego fashion for function. But Tua specifically, he has a helmet that he likes. He changed helmets in the last year. We haven't asked him about his headgear yet, but my guess is he'll stick with what he has. But those do look freaky, man. Those in a game, I practice, totally get it. And if you dive into the science of CTE and head injuries, it's the bang hit, like the UFC knockout concussion. That really isn't so much how CTE happens as it is the constant jarring. Your brain is constantly rattling. And if you're an offensive and defensive lineman, every single play, your brain rattles. So, if you're decreasing that impact, and they say 11, 12% of decrease in force by wearing those things, and then you don't want to wear them in the game, I'm okay with it. I probably would, because I'm a cautious guy, but I get why they don't want to do it.
So there's like 6 different helmet models that exist that have been tested and tried against the Guardian caps that are considered, equal or better. And so, from what I understand, you're exempt from wearing one of these Guardian caps if you choose one of those particular 6 models. So
you're very informed. You know more about this.
I was like enjoying this topic. I don't know why, but hey, it helps, I guess. But yeah,
someone who has to wear a Guardian cap in practice, Chop Robinson. And it's a good thing that quarterbacks aren't getting hits, because, good Lord, he would have lit up to a once or twice. There were 3 or 4 times so far in camp. Did you notice him at all when you were out there the last couple of times?
Yeah, you know what? He's fast. And to see our number 1 draft pick to already be making a splash in training camp makes me happy.
And he is. I mean, poor Patrick Paul. I don't think any of us expect Patrick Paul to have a big role with the team this year. He was a developmental pick. His upside's huge, but if they needed proof that he's not ready yet to play, Chop Robinson brought that proof, because those 2 guys, they're not going with the ones. I mean, they're backup players, both of them at this point. So you've seen a lot of head to head with those 2. And there has not been many wins for Patrick Paul when it comes to Chop Robinson. So good news is the Dolphins should be fine at pass rush.
That's good.
Particularly if Jaylen Phillips comes back, which I think he will sooner than later. But you have him, Agba, who has been a good signing so far in camp, certainly, and Chop. I think that absolutely can get the Dolphins through the early part of the season if indeed Bradley Chubb isn't ready.
Very good. So, even the loss of Shaq Barrett, a little panic that set in right quick after that, it's been resolved. We're good.
Yeah, if my guess is, as far as Jaylen's concerned, I think, if I was a betting man, I'd say week 1, he'll be ready. I mean, he looks great out there. We all see the shirtless workout pictures. So he's definitely staying fit. That doesn't mean his Achilles is ready for football, but I think you cannot question that man's dedication to getting his body to a point where he can play football.
And not only that, I just want to comment on his dedication to the fans, because yesterday we saw him, throwing the ball up into the stands. The kids were loving it. And he didn't just do it once or twice. He was going up and down the row. He's very quickly become a fan favorite. And, we've all been rallying, especially my friend Lisa. Shout out to Lisa Siegel for her support. If you guys see this on Twitter, every single day since Jaylen Phillips was injured, she posted a picture of him and, in support of him. I think we're on day 200 and some, I don't even know, but shout out to Lisa, because you know what? He came to her at practice and he thanked her for that. And, these guys do feel our support as fans. So let's just keep showing that support.
I think if you do a poll of most popular Dolphins player among the female fan base, Jaylen Phillips win in a landslide.
You know what? For me, though, the other day I saw Jordan Poyer for the first time in person, and I might have fallen in love briefly. I know he's a married man, but damn, he's good to look at.
Did that's why Mr. Dolph about this? Does he know your new crush?
He doesn't know.
Well, hopefully he's not listening this deep into the show. All right.
It's all in fun, and he knows it. And there's a going joke that we each have a hall pass. So, maybe my hall pass just changed.
Whoa. Breaking some news in the 33rd minute of our podcast. All right. On that note, let's get the hell out of here. I do not want to get into any more trouble.
I hope to see you guys out there at camp for Members Day and for the stadium practice. If you guys need tickets, hit me up. I think that the Ticketmaster links are still active, but I also have a bazillion tickets that I can give you guys. So hit me up. Thanks for watching.
I will see you at the joint practice on Saturday, and we'll talk next week, right?
All right. Sounds good. Fins up, guys.